Good evening. After weeks of dangerous attacks and growing fear, police have started rounding up more suspects accused of targeting Sydney's Jewish community.
One man has now been charged over a failed synagogue firebombing. Another arrest is expected any minute now, and detectives are closing in on more.
Hunting down an alleged hater. Adam Mule was dragged from a Camperdown property late yesterday, accused of vandalising this Newtown synagogue and trying to burn it down.
Put your hands up against the wall, please.
The 33-year-old and another suspect were captured allegedly carrying out the vile crime earlier this month.
This violence on Sydney streets will be met with the full force of the law.
A law the Premier concedes needs to change.
I think I should be looking at it because, regrettably, there's a rising number of anti-Semitic attacks in my state.
But it will take time.
Changes to hate speech laws as soon as possible.
The police strike force investigating Sydney's spate of attacks has been beefed up, with 40 detectives, including specialists from counter-terrorism.
There is good progress on the attack on the synagogue in Alawa, as well as the daycare fire at Maroubra yesterday.
Progress welcomed by the Jewish community, who last night came together calling for urgent action.
Our famous and well-known anthem is "We are one and free." We're not one. We are not free.
Mule is the 9th person charged over recent anti-Semitic crimes.
We will continue to make arrests.
Adam Mule is facing 3 charges connected to the synagogue attack, and he's also been hit with a drug charge. He didn't front court when his case was mentioned here today, and he'll remain behind bars.
Police say his co-accused will join him very soon. Natasha Squarey, 7 News.
Federal police are now on high alert for foreign players who they fear could be pulling the strings of Sydney's disturbing surge in anti-Semitism. Let's go to Mark Riley in Canberra now. Mark, it appears those behind the attacks are proving hard to track down.
Mark, police and intelligence agencies believe these unknown actors are operating on the dark web, offering cryptocurrency to crime groups here to possibly commit some of these attacks, causing great social distress and a political storm. They're believed to be crimes driven by hate, but they could also be motivated by a love of money.
We believe criminals for hire may be behind some incidents.
Our Five Eyes partners, the US, UK, Canada and New Zealand, sharing intelligence suggesting foreign actors are using encrypted messages, offering crime groups crypto money to commit anti-Semitic attacks.
Part of our inquiries include who is paying those criminals and what their motivation is.
The one that stands out is Russia, which has a long history of trying to sow seeds of doubt.
The opposition questions going public.
The danger with putting out partial information like this is it leads to speculation and alarm.
Part of the reason, says Anthony Albanese, to counter the opposition's claims that not enough is being done.
That's the point here. This action is ongoing.
Security agencies worry the anti-Semitic attacks will be ongoing too, and the social and political distress they're causing. Mr Albanese buckling to political pressure yesterday, calling a national cabinet meeting after suggesting one wasn't necessary. The result? A national database to track anti-Semitic attacks.
I think at the moment our Prime Minister, during a period of a national crisis, is completely out of his depth.
Peter Dutton, for someone who was responsible for some national security issues as Minister for Home Affairs, should know better.
Mr Dutton, though, intent on wielding a big stick. Mark Riley, 7 News.
Sydney has been hammered by dangerous weather again as a cool change swept across the city this afternoon. Zoe Martin is at Wahroonga, where residents have had a terrifying close call. Zoe.
And residents here were left seriously rattled when a huge tree came crashing down onto the home behind me. It was knocked over by strong winds, whipped in from the south with barely any notice. One of the residents was inside at the home at the time and described it as a crashing sound that just kept on coming. The SES had forecast damaging winds of up to 90 kilometres an hour, and it felt like that Right here, Bondi continues to get sandblasted as well, keeping most people off the beach but not out of the water. And of course, and that cool change came after a stinking hot day in Sydney's west. Badgerys Creek and Richmond saw a top of 40 degrees and Penrith close to that. SES crews are tonight on alert, waiting for any more damage reports.
OK, Zoe Martin, thank you.
And in today's hot and windy conditions, fire crews were dealing with a collapse of a demolition site in Burwood. Part of a building, which was already being pulled down, fell without warning, damaging some of the scaffolding. Heavy machinery was brought in to keep the structure upright and keep workers safe.
The nightmare on Sydney's trains is over, at least for now. A welcome ceasefire has been declared after the union agreed to scrap its work bans. But it won't rule out more chaos next month.
Heading into the Fair Work Commission this morning, union bosses were talking tough.
We believe their case is flimsy.
With big plans to restart action.
Obviously our industrial campaign will continue.
Will you rule out conducting industrial action over the Australia Day long weekend?
No.
No?
No.
Toby, don't you think industrial action over Australia Day is un-Australian?
I don't.
Fast forward a few hours, those ideas quickly crumbled.
I don't think we're able to, no.
They can't touch the long weekend. Rail unions agreeing to withdraw all 350 of their work bans until at least the end of February.
Obviously, that's a breakthrough that we've been waiting for a long time.
The government dropping its legal action too.
Passengers will no longer be caught in the middle while this dispute is negotiated.
For both sides, it's back to bargaining.
The government's offer is very clear.
The main sticking point, a safety clause requiring union sign-off for new trains or changes to the rail network.
Why do you think they've taken it out?
I have absolutely no idea. Serena. I would like to know.
Maybe because of this. The brand new intercity fleet was locked up for 5 years. Retreating today.
No, you never know. You're lucky in a big city.
But not scared to roll the dice in the future.
When will Sydney move past this saga? We understand both sides are now closer on pay, but if there's no deal by the end of February, the union says the chaos is back. The government says it'll just go back to court. We could get caught in an endless and expensive legal cycle, and if it's not commuters, the victims are taxpayers.
OK, thanks so much, Serena. There's been a ferocious reaction to Donald Trump's first day back in the White House. He's already being sued by dozens of states and has even been lectured to by one of America's most senior religious leaders about the value of mercy.
But it's his decision to free hundreds of violent criminals from the January 6 riots that's causing most concern.
Walking free from prisons across America. Some call them January 6 rioters. The new president says they're hostages, patriots. Freedom! William Sarsfield is one of them.
I haven't changed. I'm still wearing what they released me in, federal attire, with my leather jacket I wore on January 6th.
He was awaiting sentence in a Philadelphia prison when the decision came down.
I've been pardoned by a felon, and he's a God-fearing individual, so he's all right on my book. So we got two things in common.
Donald Trump, in a single decision, undoing the largest criminal investigation in America's history.
USA! USA!
Roughly 1,500 people who stormed the Capitol now pardoned. Supporters waiting outside a Washington prison in anticipation.
The minute I was pardoned and released from the halfway house, I got in my car and drove through the night so that I could be here to watch these political prisoners get released.
I would have been ashamed of that crowd if they didn't storm the Capitol at that moment.
The founder of the far-right Oath Keepers militia, sentenced to 18 years in prison, now free.
I think it's a good day for America that all the wrongs are being undone.
Capitol Police Officer Michael Fanone was assaulted during the riots. This vision from his body camera that day.
The American people elected Donald Trump knowing full well that he would pardon my attackers. And so it is the ultimate betrayal.
They've served years in jail. And murderers don't even go to jail in this country.
Also free today, the so-called king of the dark web, Ross Ulbricht, who invented the Silk Road website, the go-to for the criminal underworld. The president who said God saved him to make America great again was directly addressed by the Bishop of Washington's National Cathedral.
I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who fear for their lives. But the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals.
His opinion on the sermon?
I didn't think it was a good service, no.
This is countries here jockey for influence with Team Trump. Our foreign minister has been in the White House today, meeting with Donald Trump's national security advisor. As well, Penny Wong, one of the first foreign ministers to meet new Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
It was a signal of the priority that the Trump administration places on the Indo-Pacific, and this is a good thing for Australia's interests.
With the Trump effect already ricocheting around the world. In Washington, D.C., Tim Lester, 7 News.
A garbage truck has exploded in flames on the M7 at Horsley Park. Fire engulfed the cabin and then spread to bushland next to the motorway. Firefighters had to cut through the body of the truck to douse the blaze, which they say started in the engine. Northbound lanes were blocked as they put out the fire.
A woman is being questioned by police tonight over a fire which triggered the evacuation of a Parramatta unit block. The risk of explosion forced residents to flee last night, with one woman collapsing in the street.
No corner of this unit is spared as flames fly out windows. And there are concerns for a family who might be trapped above. Firefighters not only under pressure to attack the blaze, but to also cut off the gas and power supply as the Parramatta unit block is evacuated.
The police guys and the fire personnel asked us to stay away because there was a possibility of the whole house exploding.
One woman fainted in the street and was treated by paramedics for smoke inhalation. The fire was soon brought under control, but it took hours to make the unit block safe for residents to re-enter. As for the unit itself,
they did contain the majority of the fire to that room, but the remainder of the unit was smoke and heat damaged.
the fire started in the bedroom of this unit after the resident had left. Questions have now been raised over an object left behind on a mattress which caught alight.
It's definitely fortunate that no one was home in the unit at the time the fire started.
Police have spoken to the woman who lived there, trying to determine what exactly that object was. Amy Clements, 7 News.
Luke Sayers has stepped down as Carlton president effective immediately over a nude photo scandal despite the AFL ruling he was hacked. A lewd image was posted to his X account and linked to a female executive at one of the club's major sponsors. In a statement released by Carlton, Sayers says he deeply regrets that his family, friends, colleagues and club were caught up in the matter.
A peeping Tom who spied on a woman changing in her home in the eastern suburbs has escaped with just a small fine. He looked through the fence of the Coogee apartment, coming back days later for more until he was caught by her flatmate.
Edwin Geraldo Lopez is a family man. The father of a young woman himself, he chose to spy on one at Coogee a fortnight ago.
So you driving past and you saw her naked? Yes. So I'm so sorry.
The 29-year-old female victim was changing in a bedroom when she saw Lopez crouched down, peering through the spaces between the slats in the fence.
Shouldn't women be able to feel safe in their home?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
The 50-year-old was seen walking outside, his ute later seen driving past her apartment. He returned 2 days later and her flatmate chased Lopez and found him hiding in a nearby park. The offender lied to police about where he was, but his phone records confirmed he'd been outside the woman's apartment and he was charged. It's an offence that one doesn't often see this day and age, because in this day and age you can go to the beach and peep, the magistrate said.
The lawyer for Geraldo Lopez said the victim would have no doubt been left traumatised, but that his client was extremely remorseful and embarrassed by his behaviour that day.
His punishment, a $150 fine.
Do that never and never again.
Leonie Ryan, 7 News.
Anthony Albanese has continued his cash splash for Western Sydney, pledging plenty of funding for projects that support housing growth.
But when it comes to building new homes, we're going backwards, falling further behind construction targets.
11,000 units, a vision of a mini city.
Transforming the riverfront into high amenity open space.
But to get Moorepoint in Moorebank off the ground, it's taken a decade, held back by red tape.
By a global standard, it makes Sydney look like a laughing stock.
All smiles today, the Prime Minister welcoming more affordable housing and pledging millions on infrastructure in Parramatta, part of a push to deliver 25,000 homes.
So it's not just a matter of the number, it's a matter of the quality of life for people who live here.
The only problem is the number of homes. The Albanese government has set a target of building 1.2 million by 2029. New figures show it's falling short, 15,000 off where we needed to be in the September quarter. In New South Wales, nearly half the homes that should have been built just don't exist.
Making matters worse, unit blocks are taking longer to construct, 2.5 years on average from start to finish, compared to 18 months a decade ago.
There are too few tradies that are skilled and qualified and able to work on residential projects, and construction costs are still extremely high. We need to be getting faster and better at what we're doing.
Angelique Opie, 7 News.
A new Sydney swimming spot has finally opened. Welcome to Putney Beach on the Parramatta River. There's no sand, but you can swim, and there's a park nearby with plenty of shade. It would have opened last Saturday, but Sydney's wild weather triggered a delay. Time to check today's weather now with Amber Laidler. Amber, how strong were those winds this afternoon?
Mark, Angela, good evening. Well, strong gale winds were recorded across parts of Sydney this afternoon, reaching 80 kilometres an hour at Richmond, 85 down at Watamolla. Those sustained southerlies of 76 kilometres an hour were also observed there just after 4 p.m. A warning for damaging winds remains in place along the Sydney coast this evening. Now, it's all thanks to a southerly change that's been surging up the coast this afternoon, which also caused temperatures to cool significantly after tops reached the 40s today in parts of the western suburbs, 38 at Liverpool, 36 at Cronulla. Tops are now around 13 degrees cooler, 25 currently at Liverpool, 23 at Cronulla. What does that mean for our weather tomorrow? I'll have your full forecast coming up shortly.
OK, thank you, Amber.